Texas remembers Charlie Kirk. It's September 11th, 2025, and these are your headlines. Texans are today mourning the loss of Charlie Kirk, the national conservative activist who was murdered yesterday at just 31 years old during an event at Utah Valley University. Kirk was the founder of Turning Point USA, inspired millions of young conservatives across the country. His death has sent shockwaves nationwide. Texas officials are paying tribute. Governor Greg Abbott called Kirk's voice a beacon for millions, saying this senseless act of violence has no place in America. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick said that Kirk was a dear friend and has urged prayers for his wife and 2 young children. House Speaker Dustin Burrows pointed to Kirk's faith, quoting one of his final messages on X, saying, "Jesus defeated death so you can live." Attorney General Ken Paxton called the murder an act of pure evil, while Senators John Cornyn and Ted Cruz both described Kirk as a close friend and a patriot. Cruz recalled first meeting Kirk at age 18, saying he was courageous, brilliant, and deeply devoted to his Christian faith. Kirk was credited with galvanizing a new generation of conservatives, particularly on college campuses. In Texas, his speeches routinely drew enthusiastic crowds of young people eager to hear his call to stand boldly for faith, family, and freedom. Turning Point USA currently boasts over 900 chapters nationwide, including at Texas's biggest universities. And speaking of Texas universities, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick is now turning up the heat on Texas A&M President Mark Welsh, openly questioning his leadership after revelations that a children's literature class included instruction on exposing kids to LGBT topics. In a post on X, Patrick blasted Welsh for siding with the professor instead of the student who objected, calling it unacceptable and saying, "This isn't the first time confidence in Welsh's leadership has been lacking." Patrick urged the Texas A&M Board of Regents and Chancellor Glenn Hager to continue investigating, saying if Welsh can't reflect Texas values, then change needs to happen. The criticism comes just days after A&M fired Dr. Melissa McCall, the professor at the center of the controversy, and pledged to audit course offerings across all campuses. Her removal followed video released by State Representative Brian Harrison showing McCall dismissing a student for objecting on religious grounds. Harrison also released recordings of Welsh defending the class material, even being combative with the student. Chancellor Hager commended Welsh, though, for removing McCall, and the regent said they won't tolerate actions that damage the university's reputation. But Lieutenant Governor Patrick's rebuke adds statewide pressure, highlighting Welsh's long record of supporting DEI and LGBT initiatives, policies that lawmakers have worked in recent legislative sessions to at least attempt to roll back. And now, with both lawmakers and state leaders calling for accountability, the future of Welsh's presidency at Texas A&M appears increasingly in doubt.
Howdy, folks. It's Chris Salcedo from the Salcedo Storm podcast. You might know me from my TV show on Newsmax or my radio show on AM 700 KSEV in Houston. As a veteran broadcaster, author, and conservative political analyst, I've teamed up with Texas Scorecard to take a no-nonsense approach to the toughest questions Americans are wrestling with every day. Join me on the Salcedo Storm podcast, where I challenge the status quo and bring you fresh perspectives on the national, state, and cultural news. Tune in weekdays, available wherever you listen to podcasts.
Harris County commissioners have voted to raise property taxes. Yep. In a 3-2 vote, the court approved an increase from 60 cents to 62 cents per $100 evaluation, roughly a 3.25% jump. Now, it's still under the state's cap, so it doesn't require voter approval. Democrats who backed the hike said it's needed to cover rising healthcare costs, pointing to the $1 billion in Medicaid cuts from the Trump administration. Harris Health CEO Dr. Esmail Porsa warned that without the added funding, patients won't disappear, people will still get sick, and services would suffer. Part of the increase is also tied, though, to debt payments from the 2023 bond package. That bond is paying for upgrades at Lyndon B. Johnson Hospital, including a new Level 1 trauma center, as well as renovations at Ben Taub Hospital. Republican Commissioner Tom Ramsey and Democrat Commissioner Adrian Garcia both voted against the tax increase. Meanwhile, the county's broader budget picture is murky at best. Judge Lena Hidalgo has warned of a $133 million deficit, but Commissioner Leslie Briones insists her new plan of cuts and cost-saving measures would wipe that shortfall away entirely. Hidalgo has countered that the numbers aren't finalized and any claim of a zero deficit is purely theoretical. The budget must be approved by September 18th, when Texans will see if those numbers actually do add up. For more of today's stories, go to TexasScorecard.com.